Flan is hands down one of my all-time favorite desserts. It's silky smooth, usually has a hint of vanilla and/or cinnamon, topped off with a perfectly sharp contrast of slightly bitter caramel. How could it possibly get any better? Well, today I've got the answer for you. I'll add a splash of booze. I'm diving into making a coffee and rum flan from the Dessert 365 book. And yes, I've still got a few recipes left in there to try. Alright, we'll start with making our milk base. First, grab 1 liter of whole milk and pour it into a saucepan or some pot. Then measure 100 grams of sugar and toss it into the milk and add the cinnamon stick there as well. Now for the vanilla, if you've got a vanilla pod, slice it lengthwise halfway through, making sure it stays intact at the bottom. Scrape out those seeds from both halves using the backside of the knife's blade and toss them into the saucepan, but don't forget to throw in the pod itself. If you have a vanilla extract, just add 2 teaspoons. Next up, we're gonna heat this mixture and let it boil until the milk reduced roughly by half. That means we're aiming to lose about 500 grams of the total weight. This could take around an hour, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, so just keep a close eye on it. Just stir frequently to prevent any burning or boiling over. What's cool is you'll notice that the milk starts to take on a slight beige color. That's the sugar beginning to caramelize. Once it's done, take it off the heat and let it cool down. Next, we're diving into the caramel part. Grab a saucepan and bring the remaining 75 grams of sugar and roughly 60 grams of water to a boil over medium heat. Stir it in the beginning to dissolve the sugar, but let it bubble away without any other movement until the syrup or caramel starts to take on some color. This will take about 10 minutes. At this point, reduce the heat to low-medium and swirl the pan slightly to make sure that the caramel is cooking evenly. We're looking for that deep amber color, which will give us this slight bitterness. Once you're there, quickly but very carefully pour the caramel into your prepped ramekins, tilting them to spread the caramel nicely and evenly at the bottom. It is okay if some syrup climbs up the sides, but try to keep the majority of it at the bottom. And you've got to work really fast here because the caramel doesn't stop cooking. You'll notice, like I did here, that there is a pretty noticeable color difference between my first and my last ramekins. Finally, it's time to make the flan. First, preheat the oven to 350 F or 180 C and boil some water in a kettle. Now crack 3 whole eggs and add 2 more egg yolks. Save the egg whites for another recipe, maybe like pavlova. Next, let's grab our flavor additions, coffee, liqueur, and rum, and then take a bowl or a jar, and I prefer using a plastic measuring jar here because it makes it just more convenient to pour the liquid into the ramekins later. Add the prepared eggs and egg yolks, 1 tablespoon of coffee liqueur, and ½ tablespoon of rum. Mix it really well to make it smooth, but try not to incorporate any air. Then grab the milk mixture, add it to the egg mix. Mix it again, but again, be careful not to aerate it. Now pour the flan mixture into the prepared ramekins. I personally prefer to do this through a sieve to make sure that I don't let any egg pieces or maybe bits of vanilla bean ruin the future perfectly smooth texture of my flans. It also helps remove any air bubbles that we might have introduced during the mix prep. To bake the flan, use a deep baking pan and place all the ramekins inside. Very carefully pour the hot water into the pan to cover about 3/4 of the ramekins' height. We want to create gentle heat for our flans to ensure that we don't end up with sweet scrambled eggs due to the high heat of the oven. The water helps keep the temperature lower and prevents overbaking. Be extremely careful not to drop any water into the ramekins or they will not set properly. Bake for about 30 to 40 minutes, but to be honest, the exact time really depends on the size of your ramekins. They should be just set before taking them out. Once ready, let them cool down completely before serving. They can chill in the fridge for about 2 days. After our flans are completely cool and ready to be served, there is just one last step. and that's to take them out of the ramekins. Use a small sharp knife or a spatula to run around the edge of each ramekin to loosen the flan. Then invert a plate over the top and flip both the flan and ramekin together. If the flan resists coming out, dip the ramekin in some hot water for just a few seconds and then try inverting it again. Carefully lift the ramekin off and here we go. Let me introduce you to the coffee and ram flan. This was a bit nerve-wracking, but thank goodness it turned out quite well. As you can see, it has a beautiful caramel layer on top where the flan has merged with the caramel itself, giving it a perfectly smooth texture. Make sure that you pour all the caramel goodness from the ramekin onto your plate. If you notice any bubbles in the flan, it means that it was slightly overcooked and might have a bit of an eggy flavor. It's creamy, it's light, and it tastes like Irish coffee with rum. I'm actually surprised I can still taste some alcohol here, so keep that in mind if you're making this for a kid's party. The color is really nice, it's rich beige thanks to the caramelized milk we've made at the beginning. Overall, I'm extremely happy with this result. Flans and anything really custard based is my go-to desserts and I love it so much, and this one definitely made me very happy. Try it out and let me know if it brings as much happiness to you. Thanks for watching and see you next time.